most of the people who come to us have thought about writing a book. They just don't know how, or they don't want to take the time. They don't want to sit there. And the process many times is very cool because light bulbs start coming on and they in their head start connecting dots to their story and their business.
Okay, well, welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you for tuning in from wherever and however you're tuning in to us today. I appreciate you for tuning in. My name is Caleb. I'm joined by my Startup Junkie co-host, Jeff Hemmerin. How's it going, Jeff?
Great. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the chat today.
Absolutely. And Harrison Kitson. How's it going, Harrison?
Good to be back. Thank you.
And we are joined today by our new friend, Michael, the credibility coach, founder of the Paperback Expert. How's it going, Michael?
Caleb, it's going fantastic in my world. And I'll tell you more about that as we go. But yeah, things are good today.
Awesome. Well, we are glad to have you today. And I guess we'll just jump off. Jeff refers to this as the Wolverine origin story, but tell us your genesis.
Yeah. Okay. This will take about 3.5 minutes. So listen fast because I talk really quickly, right? So I'm a follower of Christ. I've been married since 1990. And Jill and I, when we first got married, the first 5 years of our marriage were like this. We are complete opposites. And even though we both grew up in church, nobody ever taught us how to be married. So after 5 years, we went to a family life marriage conference. And that was by a ministry called Campus Crusade and Family Life. And we sat in a ballroom with 1,000 people as they unveiled God's blueprints for marriage. I didn't know we had any. So we got his blueprints. We started working on our marriage. Our marriage got better in the 90s. During the 90s, I was in Christian radio marketing and sales. And that's when I learned how to do marketing for small business owners. Okay. Personally, I've got 4 kids. I've got two biological sons who are both married, and I have 2 adopted daughters. Jill and I did foster care for about 8 years, fostered 20 kids, adopted 2 of them. At the end of the 90s, God led us out of Christian radio to a startup.com. Remember that company called Amazon? Remember when they got started? I was with a .com at that time selling banner ads and websites to companies that didn't even know what the internet was. And that company was ahead of its time. That means they went bankrupt. And so I found myself standing in my living room, looking up at the ceiling going, God, what am I going to do now? And he spoke to my heart. He says, Michael, I want you to ministry to families. And I want you at Family Life, that ministry that changed our marriage. I said, okay. So I raised support for 2 years as a missionary, moved from Indiana down to Little Rock, Arkansas to join Family Life. Thought I hit nirvana. Why would I ever do anything else? So I climbed the corporate ladder. 6 years later, I'm on the leadership team and everything's going great until they start going through corporate reorganizations. Third reorg chart comes out. My name's no longer on the leadership team. And so they start shuffling me around the ministry to do different things. And that began a 2-year prison term, as I call it, where I was in a job I hated at a ministry I loved. After 2 years, I talked to my wife and I prayed. I said, God, I got to get out of this place. And he says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go help small business owners with marketing because they struggle with it. And I love it. And he said, go. So on January 1st of 2013, I escaped from prison. I left the ministry, started a marketing consulting firm. I'd call you, Caleb. I'd say, hey, I can help you grow your business. We'd have a great meeting. Somewhere in that meeting, you say, Michael, what have you done in the last few years? Who else have you helped? I said, well, I'll build marriages and families at Family Life. And you say, Michael, that's honorable. Way to go, dude. Oh, look at the time. I've got another meeting coming up. Let's reschedule and keep this conversation going. And you usher me out the door. Because Caleb, you didn't see me as a marketing guy. You saw me as a ministry guy. So I was having trouble gaining clients. And so I went back to my church one day, second floor. I was pacing the hallways. I was saying, God, how do I help Caleb? Because I know I can. And he gave me the idea to take all of my ideas and marketing strategies and put them in a book. And so back in 2013, I wrote and published my first book on marketing. Then, Caleb, I would call you. I'd set an appointment. I'd mail a copy of my book to you. And a week later, I'd walk into your office for our meeting, and there it was. My book was on your desk, dog-eared, highlighted, underlined. You read my book. And in that meeting, you say, Michael, now in your book, you said, how do you help me do that? And you'd hire me. I started gaining clients, and I thought, what changed? And the only thing that changed, Caleb, is the fact that I published a book. And as soon as you got a copy of my book, I instantly became an expert in your mind. And that changed the game for me. I started gaining clients, and I thought, why don't business owners do this? Because they're experts at what they do, but they come across as everybody else. So I created a company that I built a spreadsheet on every step it took me to build to create my book. And I created a company where now we work with entrepreneurs to help them create a book without writing a word. And then we teach them my marketing systems and strategies to help them use their book to gain more clients. Whew. That's what I do.
That was good. I think we followed it all.
Okay. There's a lot there. So take me where you want to go with this thing.
So that was a really good sort of foundational start to the journey. Talk a little bit about the business today and the kind of clients you have. Just give us sort of an update on how's it going.
Yeah, overall, it's going really well. We've grown pretty consistently, about 15, 20% a year over time. We're a family-owned business. I've got about 30 people on payroll. We work with, all kinds of entrepreneurs. So financial advisors, attorneys. We did one for a canine dog trainer. That's a really competitive industry. We've done home inspectors. We've done auto repair. It really doesn't matter what industry, because that entrepreneur is an expert. And we just help them take their expertise and put it into a book, because in our culture, experts have books. So the business is great. My eldest son, Caleb, he's my chief operating officer. My wife's my bookkeeper. And we've got about 12 writers and a bunch of other people on staff. And it's just consistently grown over time. But I find we are still an unknown commodity, because most people think about writing a book, but they don't have a clue what to do. And we have come to the rescue of a lot of them to help them do it without the pain involved in it.
What's that first step for somebody that is interested in writing a book and connecting with you? What's that first step for them to begin the process of putting what's up here on the paper?
Yeah, honestly, a conversation. We want to get going, because when we first get a client, Caleb, the first thing we're going to do is work with them and it normally takes about 30 days to help them clarify the message that's unique to them. Business owners have a story. My story of why I do what I do in prison and all that is very unique to me. Yet it resonates with my audience. And what I find is business owners have a story like that, but they're not sharing it. They don't know how to get there. And so that's the first thing we do. And then we use that story as the theme and title for their book. Then one of my writers comes to the table, and through a series of interviews on Zoom, the writer just starts asking questions to build the outline for their book, and then guides them through our speak to write process, because business owners, they can talk about their business all day long. What we do is help them structure it in a way that makes sense and answers the questions that their audience is asking. So the first step, honestly, is just go to our website, check us out, book a call with me, and let's have a conversation about what are you doing in marketing? Where are you wanting to go? And is a book even the right first thing to do? Because I'll tell you if it's not. But I want to make sure that we have a great message, because I have found in marketing, your message is really king. Because if you don't have a great message, you end up sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher, and nobody listens to that.
As a follow-up to that, in this sort of age where people are spending time on TikTok and they're building their Instagram profile, and they might have a YouTube channel, they're maybe writing blogs. Talk about where writing a book fits within those set of possibilities for increasing brand awareness and for driving business development.
Yeah, and all those are great channels. Okay. How about a call to action on the end of your TikTok video or YouTube channel, right? Hey, if you want a free copy of my book, just click this link. You get a copy absolutely free. So free PDF copy, right? I capture your email. You get a free PDF copy. Now you're on my list. The challenge with social media and all those things is you're not on my list. I'm using somebody else's sandbox, and TikTok and LinkedIn and all those, they can change the rules at any time. So what I want to do is use all of those to position myself to draw you into an asset, a resource that I want to put in your hands or on your computer so that you're on my list. Now, through my emails and other things, I can market to you regardless of what those guys do. Okay, so it's a both and. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And the other aspect is the fact that you're an author. And most of my clients, we promote them to be an Amazon best-selling author. That resonates with people. That has credibility built into it versus the next TikTok video they watch from somebody in your same industry saying the same things. What's separating you? It's your story, and it's the fact that you have an asset that I can put in your hands and put you on my list. Because I believe in business, your list is your number one asset because I own that and it won't change. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So your book is an asset that works in all aspects of your marketing, whether you're trying to use it to attract new leads or take leads that you've gotten and convert them into a sales call, or once you have a happy client, putting books in their hands to hand out to their friends and neighbors and relatives to get referrals from like-minded people. Your book is so versatile. I guess that's why I'm so passionate about it. It changed my life, but it changed my clients' lives too.
Can you talk about... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you talk a bit about the actual process of when you're connected with a client, kind of what do those next 30 days look like when you're building the book, when you're helping them market afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. First 30 days are really simple. I have an 8-question survey that I send you and you fill out. And once I get those answers, those questions tell me a lot about you, because I'm asking about your family background and how many brothers and sisters and what were your hobbies and why do you live where you live and why do you do what you do? Because there are reasons for every one of those that start revealing the story that is uniquely Harrison. And then I take that with your business and I start weaving them together. And I have all kinds of examples I can show you. So that's 30 days. Within 30 days, we will have your crystal clear message, title and theme of your book, back cover text, all of that done. Then we introduce you to one of our writers. And our professional writer will meet with you on Zoom for about an hour a week. First 3 weeks, we're building the outline for your book, chapter by chapter, stories that you want to tell, solutions. And then once the outline is created, then you and the writer walk through our speak to write process, where the writer's just asking you questions about each chapter, each bullet point, and you are just speaking to write your book. We record everything. And so by the time we've done 6 or 7 interviews with you, we have all of the content we need for your book. The writer then takes all of that content, transcribes it, and uses your words to massage them into your manuscript. Okay, so we're not adding content to your book. We are taking your words. And that's really important because when somebody reads your book, Harrison, I want them to hear you. So that when you're on TikTok and you say something, they're going to say, that's the same guy I heard. And when they're interviewing you or talking with you on the sales call, it's consistent. It's kind of like you go to the beach and you see the waves. Everybody loves the waves. Waves don't kill very many people. The current kills people. It's underneath. That's what we want to build, is a strong current to pull people in. So once you work with your writer for a few months, it's going to, your manuscript's done. It goes into editing, where our professional editors walk through line by line to make sure the message is clear and consistent and all the T's are dotted and commas are in the right place. After that, it goes to cover design, where our graphic designers create a stunning cover for your book that's unique to you. Then our interior design team comes to the table and they take the elements from your cover and weave them through the interior of your book. So when somebody flips through your book, they know it's a professionally published book. It's not something you did on Fiverr. Okay, that makes a difference if you're trying to build credibility. We also put our publishing logo on the back cover of your book because it's, you look at anybody's book and they have a publisher, that adds credibility. This is what we're trying to do. Then once your book is published, we publish it to Amazon, to Kindle, in PDF for your website, and in paperback copies. We can also do hardcover and podcast and audios. We can do everything. And then we work with you and we have a conversation to say, all right, Harrison, what are you trying to do in business? Are you trying to get more speaking engagements, trying to get more podcasts, trying to get more referrals? You're trying to get, what are you trying to do? And then I've built about 15 or 20 marketing systems for authors. And what I do is I build a credibility marketing game plan for you. And I deliver it to you. And these are step-by-step guides that you and your team implement and use your book to gain clients and grow your revenue. And we know it works. We've been doing this for over a decade. And when you're at that level with us, we back up our program with a 2-year double your money back guarantee, because I know it works. If you will do what I tell you to do and follow our systems that we give you, you will grow your business using your book. And the cool thing is, once you have these systems in place, you'll be using your book for the rest of your career. I published my book in 2013. I still use it today to gain clients, to get referrals and grow my revenue. You'll do the exact same thing. Did that answer that question, Harrison?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. What's that?
I was going to change gears a little bit on you for this next question. So you mentioned early on, and I can relate to this because my son's the chief operating officer of Startup Junkie Consulting. We've worked together for more than 10 years. My wife's been involved in the business over time. In fact, as I think about it, my two daughters at different times have been involved in events and different things as well. So it's very much a family enterprise for 15 years now. Talk about how that is, working with your son, working with your wife, how you kind of keep the balance, how you do it. A lot of people will say, oh, it's a terrible thing to do, to go in business with your family, and you never have separation between work and the rest of your life and all that. But you seem to have managed it very well. Talk about how that's been.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a work in progress, right? We've learned over time. Fortunately, my son kind of built the business with me when he was a late teenager and things, and then he went off to seminary and things, and then came back. What we have found is so my wife and I were like this, right? We were complete opposites. Early on, we were oil and water. Today, we're hand in glove. We're still complete opposites, but we fit better. My son happens to be a pretty good combination of me and Jill. So what we've figured out is who does what well, okay? I'm only good at 4 things in life, and we figured that out. And so when Caleb came back to our business about 3 years ago, if he had a business card, his little title underneath it would be, he says, I make Michael's business dreams come true. And Caleb has that mentality to be the detailed person. I'm really good in the first 75, 80% of anything. I'm the big idea guy. I can start anything, but I am not the finisher. Caleb's the systematic guy who builds the team and makes sure everything works right. And Caleb and I know that about each other. Now, does that pose problems? Oh, absolutely. Because I come up with more ideas than he knows how to handle, right? And so I've had to learn, Jeff, to submit myself to Caleb, my son, when it comes to business. So yes, it's my company. No, it's our company. And I have to trust him and bite my tongue sometimes. And then my wife comes to the table and we have conversations around dinner table and different things. And sometimes it gets it's like, can we put that off to business hours? That does happen once in a while. But we all know that this is business and this provides food on the table. So my teenage girls who are around, they're hearing us talk about business all the time. We're praying for clients. We're talking about issues. And it's just kind of this rhythm that we have. So yeah, it's been really good for us. I can't imagine doing it any other way. But it's not smooth sailing. But dude, I've been in corporate America. It's not smooth sailing either. You're dealing with people.
Right. No, I mean, what you described, I can relate to that completely. It's very similar with Brett, my son, and myself in terms of how we think about our contribution to the business. Gino Wickman, who wrote the book Traction, EOS Life, he talks about the visionary and the integrator. And I think you perfectly illustrated those two roles, which is it's pretty instructive. And you got to have the shiny object, the big picture, the creative people. You have to have the folks that can implement and kind of get you from point A to point B on stuff that really matters. So good on you for figuring that out. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. Gino's been really helpful. We run on EOS because of Caleb, right? Caleb came to me, I don't know, 2 years ago, says, "Here, Daddy, here's a book. Read it. This is what we're doing." I'm like, "What is this?" And he made me read the whole Traction series. Get a grip. And I'm like, okay, I follow his lead because he's just brilliant and he's really good. So yeah, thank you. But it's been a neat balancing act.
Very good.
And to build on that, I'm curious, you mentioned, at the dinner table and kind of, let's leave that for business hours. How is that balance, given that you've got the whole family kind of involved in what you're doing? How is that balance between, work and, life?
Yeah. Fairly good overall now. We work, I read a book called The One Thing. And great book. And he has a line in there. He says, I think it's that book, but you find balance by losing it. And I think that's what we have figured out is, so around the dinner table, I've got 2 daughters, 15 and 13. They're both involved in the business. One, sends out my mailings and things and puts stamps on the letters. The other one is 13. So she cleans my office. And so we're getting, and that's part of their salary, right? And their allowance. And it comes to the point that everybody understands that we need clients to send you to hip hop class or to pay for your art class. That's where the money comes from. So we're educating them really easily to go, we are all dependent on new clients and keeping clients. And I tell them when we have sales calls and pray for them. And when we get a new client and when something happens and a client leaves us, which Lord willing doesn't happen very often, but we try to be as transparent as we can to say, this is real life. We're different from many companies because I work from home, right? And a lot of people do now, but I'm able to sit, I see my daughters all day, every day. It's great. But I told them the other day, I said, do you understand that not everybody's this way? Most dads go to work and they come back 8-10 hours later and you might see them for 15 minutes. So I'm trying to help them understand we're abnormal at one level, but on the other hand, we're all normal because we're all dependent on what we do to put food on that table. And does that help? It's a fun, I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah. Kind of beyond just that family dynamic and social balancing with work, can you talk about some other obstacles that you've faced while you've been building out this business?
Oh, how long do we have, Harrison? Some of the challenges are my own with around marketing, right? Going back to the fact that I'm an idea generating factory, listening to people who are dangling that shiny object that I'm after. Okay, so consistent, predictable, reliable lead flow. We can get you 10 qualified leads a month. Really? Let's talk about that. Or, and so running after those and finding most of the time they don't. People who come to me and want to do a book and they have a coaching program and what they want to do is trade. I'll just trade services. You get me a book, I'll put you in my coaching program. And I've got 400 people in my coaching program. Surely 5 or 10 of them are going to become a client. And so we bit that worm and got burned because they got a book and I got nothing. I was left with hope and no money. And so what we've learned over time is to really be skeptical, really be conservative, and and do less in marketing, if I can say that. So instead of being on LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and YouTube and whatever else is coming out there, we've pulled back and we're really prolific on LinkedIn and YouTube. Those are our two, because that's where our market is, right? They might be on, they are on TikTok and Facebook. They're everywhere. But I don't have the resources, the time, the effort, the energy to be everywhere. So one of my failures at the beginning was trying to be everywhere. Yeah. One of my failures at the beginning was hiring a marketing consultant early on and delegating everything to him and say, just go do it. What happened is because of his fee and the marketing fee, we overspent our marketing. And I had to go through and create a spreadsheet I called it the Paperback Expert Go Broke Date spreadsheet. I thought it was 90 days, 180 days out. No, it was like 6 weeks out. So I had to make the decision to get rid of my biggest expense. That was me. I laid myself off for 9 months. Caleb ran the business as we rebuilt things, retooled things. So I realized I cannot delegate marketing like that. I have to be in charge of it. I might hire somebody to do it, but Caleb and I are always having our fingers in that. So not taking responsibility for the revenue generating machine that has to be there, that was one of my mistakes early on. And not realizing that the marketing is the lifeblood of the business. Yeah, we have a great system and an operation team, but if we don't have marketing and sales, I don't have a business. So I had to learn that over time because nobody taught me how to run a business. I was a missionary, right? I jumped into this thing with both feet and we have just figured it out. So I felt like a pinball many times. I've reiterated my business a dozen times because of the mistakes, the failures, the learning experiences I've had. But those are 2 or 3 of the big ones of not, learning not to just totally delegate to an expert what I need to be on top of.
Is there anybody that's come to you? I know it's kind of pivoting a little bit, but anybody that's ever come to you that has wanted to, have their book, that you've heard their story and thought that there's no book in that?
Well, that's a great question, Caleb. Actually, it's the other way around. If they're a business owner, I've had a number of them come to me and say, I had one guy in Hawaii, he's an attorney. He's like, I am the most boring guy you'll ever meet. And I said, oh, I doubt that. And I got a story and it was amazing. We used his story. So normally it's the other way around, is they're not sharing their story. They don't think that what they have to say has any relevance at all. And that's usually the biggest one. Can I share one story with you around that? Because it's so powerful. Had an attorney, a personal injury attorney down in Florida. Okay, he's the David against two big Goliaths. Goliaths are spending like $150,000 a month in marketing. This guy's like, I can't afford that. And I said, okay, let's go through my process. Right? I said, William, why are you in Florida? He grew up in the East Coast. He moved to Florida on a baseball scholarship. He's going to go to the pros as a baseball pitcher. That was his plan. Second year in college, he threw his arm out. Had to go through rehabilitation, surgery, all kinds of bad stuff. Killed his baseball career, killed his scholarship. So he had to pivot. He got his degree. He became an attorney. Now he's a personal injury attorney. I heard that story. I said, William, have you ever told anybody that story? He said, no. So we're going to. So we took that story and we wove it together to create his book, When Life Throws You a Curveball: What to Do When You're Involved in a Serious Accident, by William Franke, baseball player turned attorney. Now, when William walks onto the morning show or does YouTube or TikTok or whatever he does, he can come out and say, hey, if life has thrown you a curveball, if you got hit out of the, by that truck, or the dog bit you, or you slipped and fell at work, I understand, because life threw me a curveball and I've been where you are. Let me help walk you through the process of rehabilitation, and I'll get you the settlement you deserve so you can get your family back to where it was. That message was latent inside of him, but he never knew it. We had the privilege of discovering it and bringing it out in the open. Now, David can go to battle against those Goliaths and really, really do some great damage. That's what we love to do, because every business owner we work with has a story like that. They just can't see it. And that's one of the things we get to do is discover that. Thanks for letting me share that.
Absolutely.
And it kind of highlights the power of stories, right? I mean, that's the business you're in, bringing those stories that people don't think that they can get out, or maybe don't think are interesting enough, bringing that to light in a way that's meaningful. And I'm sure there's a part of that. And in addition to the marketing benefit, it's a bit of a catharsis for them as well. Putting something in print that they've maybe always wanted to say and weren't quite sure how to say it. So that's interesting.
It's very cool. I mean, most of the people who come to us have thought about writing a book. They just don't know how, or they don't want to take the time. They don't want to sit there. But the process many times is very cool, because light bulbs start coming on and they in their head start connecting dots to their story and their business. And I've got a financial advisor now out in the West, and he rides his bike to work because he's that close and he's a family man. I said, dude, we're going to start using your bike because the bike's in the background of his office. I'm like, dude, we're going to start setting you up differently. And you're going to take bike rides through the park and stop and do a video about financial planning on your bike with your kids. And it makes him different. It makes him personal, makes him relatable to his audience. Sure. Makes all the difference in the world. But business owners don't think about that because that's not professional.
Well, I'm gonna change gears on you a little bit and ask you to think a little bit about the future. One of the things, given what we do, that we pay close attention to is, if you can get a startup or a small business through the first year of survival and through the 5th year of survival, there's lots of statistics that show that the economic impacts can be really significant. And it's hard, as you know, the failure rates are high. Well, you're at 10 plus years now. You've been at this a decade. What's the next decade look like for you? How would you define winning, and what do you want it to look like 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, so 10 years from now, so I'm 58 now, so 68, I'll be close to retirement, whatever that is. The business is going to transition. Caleb and I are already talking about the plans to transition me where I am in my, as Dan Sullivan would say, that in my unique ability. We have a self-managing company, which means I'm not required to be in the company, but I'm still leading the company. Caleb's running the company with his strategic team following EOS. The revenues are such that we have revenues to help start other family businesses. My other son's a physical therapist, and his wife wants to do play therapy for kids. And my other son, Caleb, his wife does Pilates instruction. So we see a Pilates, right? So I think our business is going to spawn other businesses. And we are very big in philanthropy and giving to the kingdom. And so we want to set up a foundation to give to the kingdom enduringly and teach our children and our grandchildren that these are God's businesses. We are stewarding them, and the resources are not ours. We want to live well, but I don't need a mansion. I want to give to the kingdom. And so having that mindset, those values transcend the next generation, that's really, really important to me. So I'm working on a 200-year vision for our company, our business, so that it can spawn other businesses and set the next generation up with seed money for college, for starting their own company, to say, okay, here, Caleb, here's 50 grand to get started, but you've got to go the rest of the way, right? You've got to work. So that's the vision that we have, and Caleb and I are working out the details and what does it look like, and it'll probably take us another 5 or 10 years to get it just right, but that's where we're headed.
That's great. That would be an enduring legacy with all kinds of good, spawning new businesses, and yeah, good on you. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Caleb, it's probably about time to land the plane.
Yeah.
Pose the plane landing question.
Absolutely. So the way we land the plane on our podcast is I take the opportunity to give our guest a chance to use his crystal ball, his time machine, go back in time, give his younger self advice with all the accumulated knowledge that you have. What advice would you give yourself, prior to going into ministry, prior to starting this business? What tips might you give yourself?
The first one, well, two, right? Randy Alcorn, his writings have been very influential in my life. And his concept around the fact that we don't own anything. We are all stewards of God's resources. That came to me later in life, okay? But it has shaped and formed who I am. So if I can go back to my 18-year-old graduating from high school self and put that into the brain and the heart of that little guy to go, you're not here for you. You're here for other people. And there are blessings in giving. Jesus said it is more blessed to give than to receive. And there's a lot of truth in that. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to be yourself. And I spent a lot of time posing when I was in sales and when I was in ministry, trying to be the person I thought you thought I should be. And so I didn't do video for a long time because I didn't have a great studio or a microphone, or sometimes I'd stumble and say, or the. And I finally got over that and said, you know what? I'm going to show up as Michael. And if Michael offends you, then please go away. But if you like Michael, then let's talk, because we're going to have a great conversation. And that way, Caleb, I don't have to change. I don't have to think about, well, I'm just me. It's kind of like you never tell a lie, because I never have to think about what I said. Always tell the truth. No big deal. Always be yourself. I think if I would have told myself that a long time ago, I would have just relaxed a lot more, probably had a whole lot more fun and a lot more good business.
That's great. Hey, what's the best way for our audience to find out more about your company or you? What's the best way for them to learn more?
Paperback Expert.com. That's our website. That is the hub of all things Michael and book writing. There are a lot of free resources there. You can schedule a call, but paperbackexpert.com.
Thanks so much for coming on. It was a great conversation. Welcome. We're really glad to have you.
Oh, I enjoyed it thoroughly, guys. I really, really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for what you're doing too.
Yeah, sure thing. You bet.
Yeah.
Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors. If you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.